Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Where are you today, by the way?
I'm home in London, in Canada.
In Canada, cool. Cold winter?
It was not that bad. I can't complain. Lots of snow, but it was not bad. Today we are finally over, I think it's over 50 Fahrenheit, over 18 Celsius. So super nice weather now.
That's better than Barcelona here. Like that's not bad at all.
No, it is pretty nice.
Well, pretty cool. We will be. I'll be asking you more about the fact that you are not originally from Canada, right? And where your journey actually started, which is Mexico, right? Which part of Mexico are you originally from, by the way?
I was born in Mexico City, so the capital. The last few years, I lived in Querétaro, which is about 2 hours away from Mexico City. So yeah.
Cool. Mexico City is one of my favorite cities in the world. I was very surprised when I got there for the first time how amazing and how massive it is. It's just like so large.
It is massive. It is a beautiful place. If you go spend a few days, visit the very nice places that it has to offer, Chapultepec Castle, Versailles, Bellas Artes. But living there is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You can spend all your day in the traffic.
Yeah. Similar, different, very different, but similar in the same, in some way to a lot of our students who are in Lagos in Nigeria, another city that is massive and has a lot of energy and cool stuff, but also a lot of traffic and makes it a little bit hellish to move around. Well, I think we have quite a few people already. They're like 77 people, 80 people. So I think we're ready to start. So hello, everybody. It's good to have all of you here. Let's go to the chat and share which country are you joining from. I'm in Spain right now. Liz is in Canada. And there we go. I see Ghana is present, Guatemala, the Netherlands, Brazil, Morocco, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Zambia, Kenya, Jordan, Uganda, India, Pakistan, Estonia, Mexico. Oh, that was you? Yeah. Oh, no, that's another Luis. Okay, we have two Luises from Mexico. Cool. I have Uzbekistan, Saudi Arabia, Belgium, another Mexican too, Croatia, Ethiopia, Ecuador, Colombia, Zimbabwe. Wow.
Wow, I don't think it was this diverse when I was studying. It's awesome.
Yeah, there are students from 139 countries last time I checked, I think, in the Microverse, like the full-time student community. And we usually get applicants from every single country in the world every month. It's quite wild. I see Turkmenistan, which there are not a lot of people from Turkmenistan like joining Micro. That's super cool. Dubai, Germany, Tunisia, Cyprus. That is amazing. Turkey, Cameroon, Berlin. Oh, amazing. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to have all of you here. I'm Ariel. I'm the founder and CEO of Microverse. For those of you who don't know me, because you're not maybe yet full-time students of Microverse, and I'll be talking to Luis today. Luis is a student and alumni from Microverse, what we call a micronaut. Luis went through our program in 2020. He's originally from Mexico. He's living in Canada right now. And after completing Microverse in August, I think, of 2020.
Yes.
August, Luis, you have been through a few different positions as a software engineer where you have been doing a great job with really great salaries. And there is something very special about your previous experience before joining Microverse that I think a lot of people will feel inspired by. And the fact that you are in such great jobs today, great salaries, doing great work, working internationally with, in a team with people from all around the world, given your previous background, I think it's quite interesting. So let's just jump to that. I have a lot of questions for you, and I will start by asking you some information about what today looks like for you. So where are you working nowadays?
You mean company?
Yeah.
The company I'm working for is called Housecall Pro. It is a SaaS company based in San Diego, California.
What are you doing there?
I am a software developer. I am working on developing a new feature for our product. Can't talk about it too much, but it's going to be great. It's looking good.
Pretty cool. So you said the company is based in San Diego. Is most of the team and most of the other, by the way, how large is the engineering team of the company?
I think yesterday they said it was over 220 developers.
Wow, that's massive already. That's amazing.
It is big. Yeah.
Where are most of the people in the US or like kind of like distributed in different places around the world?
Don't take my word for it. I think most of the people are in the US, but right now the team is pretty distributed. We have people in India, Poland, Brazil, Mexico, US, Canada, probably missing a couple of countries there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super cool. So I'll cut to the chase with a question that I think it's exceptional in your case, but it doesn't have to be. And I want that to be part of the focus of our conversation today. And it is, how does the salary of a company like this one that you were working for, and you started working for this company when you were in Mexico still, you were not in Canada yet, right?
Yes, I got hired May last year. I was still in Mexico. I moved to Canada in August last year.
Okay. How does the salary that a company like that pays, like when you were in Mexico, for example, compare to a salary that you would have made working in Mexico for a local company?
Oh, I think I am making like 15 times more than what I was making at my job before joining Microverse.
15, 15.
15, okay. Yes.
Okay, that is significantly above the average. All right, I think it's a good number to set the tone for the conversation. And by the way, before we start talking about, because now we're gonna go deep into all of this, I wanna remind everybody that, hey, if you wanna say, Luis, you're amazing, say, Ariel, it's good to see you, put that in the chat. But if you have questions for Luis, put them in the Q&A section of Zoom so that we can keep track of all your questions, and we're gonna try to answer as many of them as possible. You can start like posting your questions right now if you want. All right. So all right, then let's go back in time quite a bit and let's talk about what were you doing before you joined Microverse.
Oh, I have had a few career changes. So let me just go back a little bit further. I studied mechatronic engineering, never worked as a mechatronic engineer. When I finished college, I worked as a risk manager for a bank, a Citibank. Then I started a business, sold the business, and then I was kind of looking what I wanted to do with my life after that experience. So I looked into how I could start coding. I was very curious about it, loved it, found Microverse, and yeah, got me there.
How much did you know about coding before joining Microverse?
Just what I learned in the couple of months that I looked into JavaScript before joining Microverse. I had never worked as a developer before.
Holy cow, that's impressive. And that says a lot more about you than it does about Microverse. And I want this very clear, okay? And this is something that I tell everybody who comes to like participate in the Launch and Learns, is like, these events, these Launch and Learns are not to tell people that you have to be exceptional to get exceptional things. You need to know what are the right 3-4 things that you need to do well to get to exceptional outcomes. And And I can't wait to start hearing what are the things that you think, Liz, that you did well to be able to be where you are today. But let me get us there through a few more questions. So you had very little experience before joining Microverse. You had just spent like a few months, I'm guessing using like Camp, Udemy courses, stuff like that.
Yeah, the Odin projects. Yep.
Okay. What was the reason that you decided to join Microverse and not continue learning on your own, or joining another, like a boot camp in Mexico, or going to college again for that?
So when I was trying to learn by myself, I quickly realized that I had a lot of gaps, that I really didn't know what I was doing, especially since I didn't have any experience. So I decided that I needed to join a school, a boot camp, something. And what really made me come to Microverse was the fact that I didn't have to pay anything until I got a job. So it was very stress-free. I was like, if this works, it works. If it doesn't, then what's the worst that could happen, right? So yeah, that was it.
Perfect. So now going forward quite a bit, like 6 months later, what is the most important thing that you learned at Microverse?
I learned how to learn by myself. I think that is the most valuable lesson that I learned at Microverse, because I was given a lot of material, a lot of support, and my partners in my team were amazing. Actually, one of them lives here in London, so I have had a couple of beers with her. But by the end of the day, you have to go like beyond, because when you are working through the material coding, you have a bunch of questions that you don't get like served to you. So you have to learn how to Google them, how to read Stack Overflow, how to go through other people's code to see what they were doing to solve the same issue that you're facing. And I think that was like the key learning.
Why is that learning important to you?
Because that's what you face every day. Code is changing so fast, and there's new technologies coming out all the time. So one day you are coding in React 15, the next day they upgrade to React 16, the next day you are no longer working with MySQL 5.6, you're working with MySQL 5.7. And all of the technologies are like that. So you have to learn how to read the documentation, where to find it, how to adapt to those changes.
Okay. No, that is the whole reason that we decided to start Microverse, was like, what the world needs is not more content, but we can't also expect that people will magically find a way to stay focused by themselves, 8 hours a day, because it's like the willpower you need for that is like, not very likely for a human to have it. I don't have that willpower. So like, how do you create the environment where people can stay focused and can feel like they are being supported to stay on track, but to then empower the way of learning that you will need for the rest of your career. So I'm glad to hear that's the way you feel. Like, how important do you think it was, maybe for your current role, where like you're working internationally, to have the experience, like practice your English while you're in Microverse, to work with people in English who are from like different parts of the world? Like, did that help you with your current job? Like, it's something that we try to put a lot of emphasis on, and I'm curious to see whether that impacted your career so far or not.
Absolutely. Especially if you want to work with company, in the US, in the UK, in other parts of the world where they don't speak your language and they have a distributed team. You need to learn how to work in English, and you need to learn how to work with people with completely different backgrounds, how to approach them, even their what they are used to, what's rude to them, what is not rude to them. I was fortunate that I worked with a lot of people from India when I was working at Microverse, and I noticed that they are used to different stuff that what I was used to. And I am working with a lot of people from India now. So all of what I learned from them, I can now use it to, improve my possibilities or boost my career now. So absolutely it was.
Do you remember any story, any moment where like one of those differences was very clear, very obvious to you, maybe even like frustrating or shocking, and what it took you to learn or to understand each other in that moment?
I don't have a concrete story, but I guess even the way that we talk to each other, sometimes for people from one culture, it feels rude or maybe a little bit too aggressive. And you realize that it is not that at all. I mean, it's just a different way of doing things. So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I probably, Luis, you have hear me talking about this, and I'm sure other people here has heard me talking about this book, The Culture Map, that kind of like creates like 8 different dimensions of which across which different cultures work differently, right, or communicate differently. One of them is emotionality, right? There are some cultures like much more emotional in their tone. And other ones are like much like, less emotional. And the ones that are more emotional might feel like the other ones are cold, and the cold ones, less emotional, might feel like the other ones are too aggressive in their speaking. And I think the author has this story of taking a taxi in Delhi in India, and the taxi driver at one point, coming down the taxi, and he started like yelling to another car driver, and they started yelling to each other, and then the driver comes inside the taxi again, and the woman, the author of the book, asks the driver, "Hey, is everything okay? Are you okay?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I was just giving him directions." Right. And she was so shocked, and it started giving her a picture of how so often we misinterpret other people because we make assumptions of what a certain tone of voice or what a certain way of doing things is, and you have to be open to things being different in different places, and that's okay. That's a beautiful thing about being human, is that there are many ways of doing things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you had that kind of experience, and that it's helping you. What was the hardest thing about Microverse?
I think learning to work with other people as well.
Not a surprise then.
Yes, especially because I was used to working by myself. I spent the 2 years before joining Microverse pretty much working by myself. So getting used to working with somebody else, that's your peer, that you depend on him to get the work done, and that he depends on you to get the work done. Getting that kind of teamwork again was hard, and especially if you add that it's people that you don't know, that you have never met before, that are used to different things, that are from different parts of the world, that speak a different accented English than you, which also makes it hard. But it was also the most rewarding.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear that. I'm glad to hear that you had that kind of experience. And did you at some point feel like maybe you were not cut for this? Maybe you were not going to get the results that you wanted, and you were not good enough, fast enough, smart enough, like the famous like imposter syndrome at some point?
Absolutely. I think that's something that I'm not going to say everybody, but I'm going to say most people deal with at some point. Just a couple of weeks ago, I could swear I was going to get fired. I couldn't sleep for like 3 straight days. And when I talked to my boss, I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry this happened." He was like, "What are you talking about?" "Dude, don't worry about it." So it's just something that eats you and that you have to fight, but it is there and it's a thing, and we have to address it and work.
And it never goes away. Like, I've been working for a long time now. I mean, not that old. I think you're 33, I think.
Yes.
23, I'm 34. Both have been in the market, even if it's not in the coding market, but in the market for a while. And I still feel I'm at my job, like as a CEO of Microverse, like every day, like I'm not doing well enough, right? And we are our worst, critics and enemies sometimes. And you have to remind yourself that, hey, don't worry. The fact that you feel like that is just a symptom of you being outside of your comfort zone, and you only grow by getting out of your comfort zone. So if you don't, if you're not prepared, if you are not okay feeling this, you will never, grow, because it's meant. I mean, it's supposed to be like this. Like it's human to feel this way. But it's good. It's good that it didn't block you at any point. Did you feel like at some point you could have almost given up because of that?
Yes, yes, a few times. And that's what I say, because some of my friends are like, dude, you're doing so great. I want to, do what you did. Where can I learn? And I recommended Microverse to a bunch of them. But what I always say is, if you are not good with frustration, don't get near software development.
Yeah, having to deal with like a simple bug, right, for a day, to then come back the following day and realize that it was just, a character or a very simple thing that it was in front of your eyes, but you were missing it. It's like pretty frustrating. Well, it feels good once you find it, but yeah.
Yeah, the dumb bugs are the worst and the
Yeah.
harder to find.
Yeah. So let's talk about the process of, getting a job. And the company you're working for today is not the first job you got after Microverse, right?
Right.
Can you give me a little idea of what's been your career, even if short so far? It's been like almost 2 years, right? What's been kind of your career in those 2 years, just to get a sense of how you got to where you are today?
Yep. So I don't think you have any more students from the program that I studied, 1.0. But when I was studying, we had the Rails module before JavaScript. And my first job experience came right after I finished the Ruby on Rails module. I was like, I love this. I'm gonna, just go for it. Look for something, some kind of gig that I can do with the knowledge that I have. So I started working on my capstone. I created an account on Upwork, and I went through some of the job openings that they had. Like, what are they looking for? What are they asking? What do they need? And I noticed that something that most of them needed was auth authentication. So I included auth authentication to my Rails capstone project, which was not part of the Microverse curriculum. And I went out there. I was like, hey, let me work for you. Let me do this for you. And I got tons of rejections. Tons of people just go.
How many do you remember?
When you create your account on Upwork, they give you some credits for you to, look for. I ran out of them. I had to buy more to get to my first job. And there was this lady looking for a developer, and she had a budget of, I don't remember, maybe $1,000 or 12,000. And I was like, I'm gonna do it for half. I'm gonna be, straightforward. This is gonna be my first paid job, but if you have me, I'll do it for half of your budget. She said yes, and I did it. It went great. She gave me a great recommendation, and then she hired me for my first full-time position at another company that she was a partner of. So yeah, that was my first.
Pretty cool. So the way to get into the first position wasn't to apply to it, but through serendipity, meeting a person in Upwork through a first project, and then that led to this person hiring you full-time for their role. Did you still have to do some interviews or something for the full-time role?
Yes, she was a project manager at Radio, my first company, or the first company that I worked for. So she was like, hey, you'd be great for software engineer position that we are looking to fill. would you come and talk to our CTO? And so I did. I talked to him. It was a fairly short talk. He was like, "Hey, I saw what you did for her. So, if you're up for it, let's do it." So yeah.
Nothing better than some real world like work to show that you can do the job, right? So it makes total sense, and that's the reason why it's so important to have a portfolio with projects linking to the GitHub repositories where the README and everything is super clear, professionally, documented, so that it looks like what it takes to work at the level and in the way that it will take once you join a real company, right? So if you have done it before, you can do it again, and there is no better guarantee than that. So and it's an interesting way. I don't think most people do it that way, by using Upwork as a way to then find something else. And it's not something you can, I guess, predict or plan for, but it's one of those dots that you can create. And while you're applying to jobs, you can start looking for like little gigs in Upwork and freelancer platforms that give you some real experience. You can put it in your portfolio. Sometimes it might lead to a longer project or a full-time offer. Sometimes it's just another sign in your portfolio that you can get it done, so it's more likely for people to hire you. That's terrific. And then that was your first job. How long were you at that company for?
Like 7 months, probably.
7 months.
7, 8 months.
How was the process of moving on to the next position after that?
Very abrupt. So Radio was a startup company. They were trying to get funded, and at some point they just ran out of money. So just one day we came on a Zoom meeting, and the CEO was like, "We don't have any more money, guys. Sorry, we're gonna just stop the project starting today. So good luck." And then the lady who hired me, or the project manager, was like, "Hey, I've worked with this other person before. I know that he has a project. Would you mind if I reach out to him to recommend you for the project?" And I said yes. So we interviewed a couple of times. He was creating a service for another company. So I interviewed with him and his team, and I interviewed with the other company that I would be doing the project for. And yeah, I got the position.
Is that the position where you are today?
No, that was a previous one. So that was just like a big project that I led with another developer and designer. And after that project finished, I started looking for another position at that stage of that I have now.
How did you find the current position?
LinkedIn. There is a saying that LinkedIn is kind of the Tinder for nerds. So the nerdier your LinkedIn is, the more requests you get. So I usually get at least a couple of requests a week. And when I was finishing the other project, I started accepting the requests and saying, "Hey, yes, I would like to interview for another job." So I did 5, 7 interviews, got 2 offers, and yeah, that's the job that I am right now.
Very good. So we'll talk about the interview process in a second, but I have another question before that. If you were to rate from 1 to 10, the difficulty of getting the first Upwork project compared to the difficulty of getting the current position, what rating will you give to each one?
I guess it is much harder to get your first job, probably a 10, and probably a 7 or an 8 to get my current position. Just because I was in a weird spot. I was pretty junior for the time that I have been coding, but I was a senior because my previous job was a senior developer. So it was kind of a weird position for most companies. I was like, "Oh, I kind of want to interview you for a senior position, but you don't have experience." But So the interviews were brutal. I had a lot of fun.
Let's talk about those interviews then. How was the interview process for this more recent position?
So the first interview was with the person who contacted me on LinkedIn. Then I had an interview with the CTO of the company, one of the CTOs. And then I had 2 coding challenges, whiteboards. Then I had last interview, and then I was finally hired.
Which kind of questions did you get asked in the like coding interviews?
Lots of theory, async versus synchronous code in JavaScript, promises, React, hooks, lifecycle methods, Redux, lots of theory. Same with Rails.
And it was all, well, you hadn't done the React and Redux part at Microverse because you got the first job before that part, right?
So I got the Upwork gig when I finished the the Rails module. So all of that project was Rails. And when I finished the JavaScript module, I added a little bit of JavaScript to make it look prettier. And then I did the React and Redux course, and then
you did it. Okay, yeah. That I didn't remember if you had finished that capstone or not. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
You also went really fast through the program. So how long did it take you to complete Microverse, by the way?
I think it was like 4.5 months.
That is ridiculously fast compared to the average person. What was the key to be able to go so fast?
I needed money. So I was not working when I started working on Microverse. Fortunately, my wife was super supportive, and she was working. She was, bringing food to the table when I was studying at Microverse. But we needed more. So I was like, I have to go through this as fast as I can to get out my first job. So yeah, I worked super hard.
Scarcity, it's a powerful incentive, right?
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting thing, with the program you went through, what we call Microverse 1.0. It was like a much more like flexible program, and some people were able to go super fast. I think 4 months and a half or 5 is like the fastest that someone has ever done. And then, but other people took like 13, 14, 15, 16 months to complete it. Whereas now with Microverse 2.0, it's impossible to do it faster than 7 months. 7 months is the least that it will take you. But on the other hand, it's very rare for someone to take more than a year to complete it. Most people will complete it in 8, 9, 10 months, and that's an advantage that it won't be so long. But on the other hand, it can be so short. But financial difficulties is probably one of the most complicated challenges of the journey, because it's really hard to get all the skills and the experience that you need to really get a good proper job in less than 4, 5, 6 months. And I bet it was pretty intense for you to do it in such a short period of time. So again, just a lot about you, not about Microverse.
Thank you.
So your case, I think that is not unique, but it's exceptional in the sense that you're able to come without previous experience, complete the program really fast, and then get into this like chain of opportunities where it started, in a very hard and small project, and then led to like a position that's like a senior position. But then the company shuts down, and then you go to the current position, and the salary keeps growing and growing. But the market is really desperate today, very, very desperate for like technical talent. I was in a dinner with a lot of CEOs like 2 nights ago, and people in the table went one by one saying, who they were and what was like the most important challenge that they had as a company. And there were like, startups with like 4 or 5 people there. There was a company that makes $500 million in annual revenue, and there was everything in between, right? So a lot of different companies. And 80% of the people, their challenge was, I need more developers for my team, and the market is crazy, salaries are super high, and I just can't compete, and I just can't retain people, and I can't find enough people, everybody, right? So getting that first job, it's always the hardest, right? But then there is a really high ceiling for what can happen after that. What, in your opinion, were the things that you were able to do, that you focused on in order to have these exceptional outcomes after the program that gave you this really fast, track into the industry?
I guess, and this is probably gonna sound super cliche, but I truly think that one of the best things that you can do is make the work the best you can. It doesn't matter if it is like super huge or if you start with something very small, just make it really, really good so that it can recommend you with everybody that you show to. So I think that is what made me, grow so fast, because my first gig went great. So that got me my first job, and then I did my first job well enough that the project manager was encouraged to recommend me to one of the investors of her company, which, if that had gone wrong, it might have shut some doors for her in the future. And then my work at that company was, good enough that it got me this new job that I have now. And I feel like my job here is, getting recognized and making me grow as well. So just start small and do it the best you can.
I think that summarizes it really, really well. And it's not a surprise then that we hear statistics that say that 80% of the positions get never listed online because they are filled through, network, right? So when you come from a strong reference from another person who already worked with you, you skipped, you get access to the job opportunities before they even get listed, which means you have way less competition. And to be honest, the people hiring you or interviewing you will be biased to look you with a positive eye because you come recommended by someone they trust. So networking, building relationships, building trust, it's everything. It feels like an indirect way of getting to the job compared to applying to the job, but it's definitely much more effective. Yet a lot of people don't put enough importance. But your approach is quite interesting. It's not enough to build the network. The way you build the network is by doing a great job, right? Because then you show that it's worth keeping you around and staying close to you. What does a great job mean to you, right? Is it just, it's clean code? It's you can code fast? Is it something else that has nothing to do with code? What does great job work for you, mean for you?
I think it is a little bit of everything, because overall is keep your word. If you give your word that you're gonna do something, do it no matter what it takes. So the first Upwork gig that I got, I gave this lady a full schedule of when I was gonna deliver, what I was gonna deliver, and how it was gonna look. So she gave me some designs, and I was like, on this first week, I'm gonna give you this with images and steps that I was gonna take to get that. And I calculated that the payment that I was gonna receive was somewhere around $5 an hour, that I was gonna spend the time to get paid that amount. And by the end of the work, I was paid way, way less than that, because it took me longer to get the job done, but I got it in the time and manner that I promised. And that's kind of the philosophy that I work with. And if I know that I am not going to be able to deliver something, I just say it up front. Like, hey, I'm sorry, but that is going to take me more time. But I promise you that it's going to work. And,
The famous under promise and over deliver.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, something I hear from you is communication, right? And it's setting the right expectations and communicating things proactively, right? And on the other hand, many people feel because of imposter syndrome that I can't do that. And if I say that I can't, they won't give me the job. But very often when you are on the other side, on the person who needs the job done, you'll much rather go with someone that will take a little longer, but that you can trust because they have been clear and communicative in the process. And when they say something, they do it, then someone that takes less or even that charges less, but that has more risk because they might disappear. They might do it 5 times, in the amount of time they told you, right? So I think that communication element to me, as an employer, is super important, and as a worker, it's also the way that I like working as well. So it makes a lot of sense. So before we move to the Q&A, we have a lot of questions. How has your life changed since Microverse?
Oh, wow. I can't describe it. I mean, if you think about what would you do with 15 times what you are making right now, like it's just crazy. And that gave me the possibility to come to live to Canada, which was one of my lifelong dreams. And we are enjoying ourselves, me and my wife. We are traveling, knowing Canada, while doing something that I really, really love. Like sometimes it's 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m., and my wife is like, dude, what are you doing? Just stop. And I can't, it's so close, I can't stop. So I just enjoy it so much. Um, it was a life changer, absolutely. Oh, you're muted, Ariel.
There we go. That makes my day hearing that, right? Like at the end of the day, I always say we are trying to build something that can change millions of lives, but it is the individual stories that keep the heart beating really fast. And like the job of a developer, where a bug can make you feel frustrated, and then you have a bad day. I also have days like things are really hard, and there are a lot of challenges, a lot of things going on. And every day that I have a day like that, but then a student shares a story like yours, or I get a little message saying, hey, Ariel, thank you so much. Like I shared a tweet yesterday about, a message that I received from a student, and I'm like, oh, it's so worth it, right? So thank you, Luis, for sharing your story. And let's go to the Q&A. A lot of good questions. So by the way, just for the people who are asking questions, I might skip some questions if I think that we have already answered them. What did you do to become a senior developer in just 2 years? I think we described kind of that journey and the things that you did differently. I guess it's a good question asked maybe in a different way to what we said, which is, what do you think? Let's say your employer today, the company you're working for, what are they looking for when they hire a person?
I think they are looking for somebody that takes criticism and that can deal with it. So as software developers, ego is a big thing. And you notice it the first time you come to a job. Like everybody's competing on who's best at this, who's right about this, who who can discover a bug in your code. So that is part of the everyday life of a developer, and somebody that can take criticism and take it the good way instead of the wrong way and improve on it. It's something super important. It's something that we take seriously during the interview process. Knowledge, of course, that they can do what they say they can do, and that they are able to explain it in simple terms, because we deal with designers, product managers, salespeople, tech support specialists, and other engineers. And you need to be able to describe what you do, how you do it, in a way that everybody can understand. I think those are the three main.
Oh, those are two super key things that I also look for in people, being able to take feedback, right, and grow from it. And then sorry, I lost track on the second thing you said. Was
That they can deliver what they say they can.
Absolutely. And then being able to stick to what they're promising that they can do, for sure. So next question is, was there a change that you became a senior developer? I mean, what was needed for you to become a senior developer? We have talked a little bit about that it's not just about the title, right? It's about the level of responsibility, the salaries, the complexity of the challenges they're working on. Titles are, I think, just that. And I think it looks like in your first job had the senior title, even though it was like a much smaller company. The current job doesn't have a senior title, but you probably are working on a much more complex, in a much more complex way than you did in the previous job, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's sum it up. So the first role that I had was senior, and then the next job I was a tech lead because I only had one person that I was working with directly. And then in this position, my title doesn't include a senior, but I have never worked so much and so hard in my life.
That's good to know. All right. Joining Microverse after getting paid is difficult. Was it difficult for you to quit your job to join Microverse full time?
I didn't have a full-time job when I joined Microverse. So I was doing some small gigs here and there. I had the money that I received when I sold my business. That's how I supported for a few years. And yeah, I was looking for what was going to be my next step in my career. So unfortunately, I cannot tell you. I bet it's very, very hard to leave your job for Microverse because it's the uncertainty, right? So yes, there is like the tech world. Everybody knows it's a very well-paid profession, and the prospect of being able to move overseas or to a different country. But in the other hand, you have the security of your job, So I bet it's very hard. If I had known what I know now, and I had a job back then, I would have totally left it for Microverse and to become a developer. Absolutely, no question asked.
It's a really hard leap of faith. And I guess we have a few different things that create doubts, right? There is a doubt in yourself because of imposter syndrome. There is a doubt that you don't know the market, right? And can you really get there? And there is like the doubt of like, hey, can I get into Microverse? Can I complete Microverse? So I think it can be a good opportunity to share some statistics or numbers that at least I know about. Or maybe not just numbers, but also a few things. So the first one is it's about imposter syndrome, and almost every human being is its worst, critic to himself or herself. So don't listen to yourself for that. Ask people who have done it before, right? People like Luis, you can ask their Microverse team. Like we have designed our admissions process so that we only accept people that we know can make it, right? So if you doubt whether you're good enough or not, why would you listen to yourself to decide if you're good or not, right? So it's like find other people that can give you a very non-biased answer to whether it's possible or not, and trust that. Then there's the market. The market today, it's wild. And as you said, Luis, the first job is probably it is the hardest one, but after that, it gets much easier. There are a lot of opportunities. And then there's a part about Microverse. And this is where I think I can share a few numbers that some people who might be considering joining Microverse or who are going through Microverse today might find useful. So we received 40,000 applications per month to join Microverse, okay? We are accepting 200 people, right? That's 0.5%. Now, you might think, well, that's because you need to be a genius. And no, the reality is that you need to, really want it. So you need to put the work to pass the coding challenges, but you don't need to be a genius for that. You need to speak decent English. You need to have the financial support to be able to do this full time. And those things already leave, unfortunately, a lot of people outside of this possibility. But don't doubt yourself. Like if you can speak English, if you can join the program full time, which by the way, it's pretty hard for most people, then try, because if you pass the admissions process, which if you have those things, like you will pass it, it's just a matter of time. You can try as many times as you need. 70% of the people who start the program complete the program today. But of the 30% that won't complete it, 2/3 drop out on the first month of the program. So even if you're taking a risk, the risk is after the first month, you're going to see how much risk you're actually taking, because if you can pass the first month, you have a 90% chance of making it to the end. And if you make it to the end, 90% of the people are getting jobs as software engineers in a few months after Microverse. Like once you get into Microverse and pass the first month, you have a 90% of chance of finishing, 90% of chance of getting a job. Those are really high chances. And the people that don't make it to the end, that don't get a job, are people whose lives get disrupted by things that were not under their control, like, financial difficulties, health difficulties. So those things you can't control, but everything else is in your favor. So like, I'm trying to say, like, believe in yourself, believe in the people who are telling you that it's possible, trust the process, and understand that, the risks, like the more you do, the more that you de-risk this. And so Microverse gives you that way to measure that risk that you're taking. Anyway, that's a long answer, but I think it was a good opportunity to cover that part. Okay, this is a really good question. If you could go back on time to Microverse with the experience you have today, what you know about the world of software engineering today, what would you do more of and what would you do less of while in Microverse?
I would read more documentation, definitely. Don't take anything for granted. So just a quick story. When I was working with my Ruby on Rails capstone, I got a review about N1 querying and some models not making sense the way I had coded them, but everybody else approved the project. So I made a few adjustments and it passed. So I never looked back at it. Like, I did it, everybody approved. And if I had taken that review more seriously and I had gone through the documentation, what is the N+1 querying? What was it talking about the models? Why is it not a good idea to be, or to have them like this? How can I make them better? It would have saved me probably hundreds of hours of debugging the code that I wrote months later when I was working. So yeah, something that I would do more is read more documentation, take the code reviews like more seriously, in the way that don't just fix what they are asking you to fix, just go deeper. Why are they saying that it is not the best practice or the best way to do it? What's, the history behind it? What have other developers discovered that make this not the best way to do it? And it will teach you so much. It will make you deadly when coding interviewing.
The piece of advice we give often. It's not about checking boxes and, okay, did it. It's about what you're learning in order to check those boxes. So if you can maximize that, you're taking advantage of every moment, for sure. I think, someone else asking a similar question, which is, what is the biggest mistake you made in your career as a developer, and how did you fix that mistake?
I think the worst mistake I made was, and it's kind of related, because when I was designing the architecture for the big project that I got as my second project, I made a lot of mistakes. It was lack of experience, lack of preparation, but mostly lack of knowledge. If I had gone deeper in the documentation, in architectural design, reading more books. Books are great because they give you thoughts of people outside of your environment, because companies sometimes are like very engaged in a way of doing things, and they get married with something and they are very reluctant to change it. But when you read books, you learn from other people non-related to what you are doing right now, and you get a lot of value. So that is one of my biggest mistakes. It costed me tons and tons and tons of hours of refactoring and re-architecturing the backend. So that's my biggest mistake, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. There is a very different kind of question here, which I like. It's when you moved overseas, well, from Mexico to Canada, how the relation between life and cost and wages affected you, right? I mean, are local job positions wages bigger than remote wage enough to compensate moving to another country with a higher life cost? It's a really interesting question. We were discussing this before. So tell us more about how you lived this.
It was definitely a challenge. I came to Canada because my wife is studying. So we are costing not only, living here, but also her school, which studying in Canada is crazy expensive. Like you wouldn't believe. But I just made sure that before I took that step, I was going to be able to support ourselves and, to overcome all of the difficulties that come with moving to a different place. But once you get there, yes, the cost of living is higher, but the salaries are also higher. So, just make sure that you are competitive, that you have the knowledge, that you have the experience, and it's gonna be easy. The market is super hot right now for software engineers.
So let me mark this as answer. Perfect. So there's so many questions, and we're getting to the end. So maybe a couple more. Did you know exactly what you wanted to learn and to study when you were learning on your own before joining Microverse?
I really wanted to do mobile development. I really wanted to, I had ideas for apps that I wanted to do. And I knew that Microverse was not focused on mobile application, but I figured, well, I'm gonna learn React, right? And then this, I did my research and I knew that the step towards React to React Native was pretty seamless. So I just went for it. And when I was studying and learning, I discovered that what I really like is web development. Dealing with the backend, the server, and then translating that into something that the client can see and interact with.
It's a pretty cool feeling. I mean, I've been coding since I was 12. I don't do it full time anymore, but the moment we start connecting the backend with the front end, it's a very special thing when you build the two sides and you can see it just clicking. It's a nice feeling. I've also spent 4 years of my life doing Objective-C, building iOS apps, and it's a different kind of experience. I mean, it's cool too, but if I could choose, I will also go to web development. To me, even the CSS part, even though it can drive you, nuts, sometimes it can be fun as well when it comes together. So yeah, it's a fun world. All right, maybe no. I think we have to be respectful with everybody's time, and still quite a few questions. But maybe perfect. Here Regis is asking, and we're gonna close with this. It's like, what is a piece of advice that you want to give to someone who is a beginner in programming, maybe someone who want to learn on their own, or someone who wants to join Microverse, someone new in this career? What is your advice for them?
Look for someone that will help you through the path. If you choose to be on yourself, look for somebody that will mentor you and that will guide you, because there's a lot of information out there. Don't watch YouTube videos, please. That's one of the worst ways to learn, because they teach you so bad habits. There's very few people that really do a good job coding. read books. That's something that I never did before joining my current company. They encourage a lot of us to read books, and they give us licenses to books, and it's improved my coding skills quite a bit. And go through the documentation. It is overwhelming. It is hard when you first start doing it, but it will save you so much time and will make you so deadly during your interviews.
Thank you for sharing that. How can people connect with you if they want to, stay in touch with you or with your career?
Shoot me a LinkedIn request. You can also look for me on Twitter, but I never used it. So
I have your LinkedIn link here. I always have it handy just in case. You want me to put it in the chat? Is that okay?
Yes, please. And just please, just type like, hey, I was in the Lunch and Learn, or I'm a fellow Micronaut, something, because I get so many requests from people that just want my Upwork account. I don't know how that is even a thing. So I just stopped accepting requests from people that I don't personally know or that don't have a message. So just please, add that.
Which, by the way, it's a very good recommendation for applying to jobs or anything or connecting with someone is a personalized message goes a very long way. So anyway, let's wrap up with that. By the way, there are a lot of people asking questions about Microverse in the program. Remember, you don't pay anything up front. You only pay if you get a job where you make at least $1,000 as a software engineer after the program, okay, $1,000 a month. And it is a full-time program, Monday to Friday. There are like set hours where you have to be present. There are deadlines every single week, and they're quite intense. So like you need to be fully dedicated, full-time dedicated to the program. It is in web development. We teach Ruby, Ruby on Rails, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, React, and Redux, some of the foundations of computer science. We don't connect you directly with companies that will hire you, but we coach you and we guide you in the process of applying to the companies, in the ups and downs emotionally of getting rejected and staying strong. We do all of this without teachers. We do it with peers, with other students from all parts of the world who are supporting you, who are becoming your source of joy and support, who also teach you not just how to code, but also how to work with people from all around the world. They help you improve your English level. It's a very different approach to education, but it's one that it's designed specifically for people who want to start international careers. And that's why you only pay if you're making a salary that typically you only make once you're working very internationally or remotely. So if you have any more questions, I'm going to put it here. You can just reach out to us, info@microverse.org, and you can ask your questions. And also our website has a lot of information as well as the admissions process. You can find an FAQ in our website with all the information. And I'm going to stop here. We're past the time. Luis, it's been a massive pleasure. Thank you so much for dedicating us your time. And I look forward to following you and your, rocket type of career, which so far seems to be going really well.
It was an honor being here. Thank you for having me, and thank you, everybody.
Bye, Luis, and bye, everybody.